Do you know, I'm really starting to go off Hamas. Not satisfied with building their strategic headquarters in the basement of a hospital, not satisfied with taking hostages and weaponizing civilians and making it harder for people in Gaza to head south, they are now reported to be using ambulances to transport armaments. Of course they are. So rather than carrying injured Palestinians, these vehicles are full of grenades, AK-47s and other instruments of death. What a letdown Hamas have been. With the halo having slipped for these brutal murderers, you'd expect woke progressives going on marches straight after the horrors of the October the 7th attack would be having a change of heart. Well, I'm afraid not. Welcome to the clown world of 2023, where the officially nice, be kind brigade, much better humans than you and me, fill the streets of our great cities every weekend to signal not just their virtue, but their crushing ignorance of Middle Eastern politics and history, and their utter lack of empathy for Israelis who face an existential threat, who face, to be blunt, a second Holocaust. You'd think, wouldn't you, that politicians and high-profile celebrities would back off from any connection with this death cult, which these marches inevitably offer support to by implication. Well, enter stage left former footballer and part-time junk food salesman Saint Gary Lineker, who backs a controversial Palestinian protest march through London on Armistice Day, a day reserved for the memory of those we lost in 2 world wars. He challenges the idea posed by the Home Secretary Suella Braverman that these are hate marches, even though every time they happen, there are calls for a holy war, the elimination of the State of Israel and the wiping out of Jews. Sounds pretty hateful to me. These marches are suffused with anti-Semitic slogans and rhetoric, but Gary seems to have missed that. Perhaps he needs to see some VAR footage of the kind of horrific language and sentiment that makes Jews now afraid to live in their own country. I'm no historian, Gary, but that sounds like 1930s Germany to me, a period in history that you're always keen on referencing, except when the parallel is so obviously appropriate like now. It's like those woke people for whom everyone's a Nazi, except actual Nazis. Bringing more embarrassment to our national state broadcaster, the BBC, who themselves have had an absolute nightmare in their Israel coverage, Lineker is presumably comfortable with people marching in front of the cenotaph next weekend as wreaths are laid, with protesters likely breaking the 2-minute silence designed to remember the war dead. Like the captain of a pub team playing in the FA Cup final, Lineker is woefully out of his depth here. For example, he's all for the ceasefire, which means giving Hamas time to regroup and prepare for more murder. Don't take my word for it. Here is a charming Hamas spokesman, who I'm assuming will be sending Gary Lineker a bottle of bubbly as a thank you for the unintended support. This is Hamas official Ghazi Hamad, who says we will repeat the October the 7th attack time and again until Israel is annihilated. We are victims. Everything we do is justified. What a charming man. I'll assume that includes beheading babies. Now, Lineker does not support Hamas. Of course not. His supporters would argue that he's worried, as we all are, about the horrific carnage playing out in Gaza as we speak. Men, women and children dying, hospitals overflowing. It's a humanitarian disaster. Lineker is right to point this out, and he's right to be horrified. But this carnage is not by accident. It's by design. This is the military strategy of Hamas to weaponize human souls. Hamas blocked roads to stop people in Gaza heading south, and they deliberately place innocent people, including children, in harm's way, which is why Hamas will be loving these calls for a ceasefire. Given that these are heartless monsters, baby beheaders and rapists in possession of over 200 hostages, a ceasefire against Hamas is akin to a ceasefire against Hitler himself. Lineker was a great footballer and is a great broadcaster. But not for the first time by straying into complex political issues. I think he's divisive, deluded and wrong. I'm sorry, but I don't buy the nice guy routine. It's my view that Lineker is a preening narcissist who will stop at nothing to build his brand as a professionally lovely human being, insulated from the grim consequences of his luxury beliefs as he tweets from the comfort of his London mansion. It's high time this ex-footballer was sent down the tunnel for an early bath. As usual, he's talking balls.